guys, today we're going to take that Louisville Cardinals hoodie that I got in a Poshmark Rescue Box and we're going to turn it into a sweatshirt dress type of thing. I don't know. It turns out okay, but yeah, that's what we're going to do. So if you're interested to see how this turns out, keep on watching. What's up, gorgeous people? It's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are finally back to DIYing. I know I've been promising you guys that I was going to get some DIYs out there, but as I said, those videos take a little bit longer for me to do because I have to make the stuff, film me making the stuff, and then do a voiceover explaining everything that I'm doing. So it's just a little bit more work to get these videos out, but I have been working hard to get those done for you. Nonetheless, in today's video, we are going to revamp that Louisville Cardinal hoodie that I showed you in one of my Poshmark videos. This came in one of my rescue boxes, and it was just way too damaged for me to attempt to resell, so I decided that I was going to turn it into something for myself. Well, in the video I told you guys it was going to turn into a skirt, but after looking at it I thought it would be a lot cuter as a dress. So that's what we're going to do with it today. I'm going to use the Louisville Cardinal hoodie along with another button-up shirt to make a dress for myself. I hope all that makes sense, but nonetheless, I'm really happy with the way that it turned out, but it was a little bit of a roller coaster ride, as it always is with my DIYs to get there. So without further ado, let's jump into me turning this Louisville Cardinal hoodie into a dress for myself. Okay guys, so here's that Louisville Cardinals hoodie, and the first thing that I want to do is take the hood off. I am not a fan of hoods. I just don't find them comfortable. I do love the way they look. I do not like the way they feel. So I'm taking my seam ripper here, and you know the drill. I'm going to go ahead and spread this apart, slip it up underneath a couple of the threads, and just snip them out. I'm not going to bore you with this entire process, but I'm just going to go ahead and get this hood removed, and let's see where we're at after that. Boom! Okay, the hood's completely off, and this is what we're left with. Looks great, right? Awesome. All right, so here's the hood, and I do have a plan for this, so I'm going to set it aside for now, but you're going to see it later in the video. So the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and remove the body part, I guess you can say. So see where it's all seamed together right here and on down through the shoulder, well, not the shoulders, that would be the armhole part. I'm going to go ahead and just seam rip all along those lines to remove the entire body part of this. Okay, so this is what we're left with. We're left with the little top part and the sleeves, and that's exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like this for now, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part. All right, so I'm taking the body part, and I don't want the Louisville Cardinals part on this particular project. I'm going to save it for a different one. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off, and I'm just going to line it up right there where the armhole ends, and that's where I'm going to cut it. Okay, so I'm lining everything up, and you guys, I never really cut straight. Honestly, I don't. So I try to straighten it out as best I can, but you know, whatever. We just make this stuff work here. I am clearly not a professional by any stretch of anyone's imagination. So now that that's cut off, we're going to set this part aside because I will need it a little bit later. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what we're going to put in the rest of this. This is a Hager clothing button-up that I got at Gabe's. It was originally $5.99, but I got it for $2 on clearance. So that's what we're going to use pieces and parts of to fill in the rest of this hoodie dress thing that we're making. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do with this is also cut off the top part of it. So I'm going to go right at the armhole there and just cut across just like I did with the hoodie a few moments ago. And I'm trying to be careful and line it up as best I can. So it seems like this one's taking a little bit longer because I was trying really hard to cut it straight, but I still don't think it was straight, but you know, we're making it work. Okay, so now that that part's ready to roll, we are going to go ahead and seam rip off the little piece of that pocket there because a little piece of the pocket was left, and I just don't think that's going to look right with the dress hoodie thing when it's done. So we're going to go ahead and just take that off of there. Okay, now that that's all off, we're going to line it up, and this is how I'm going to fill in the parts that we just took out. So we're going to just line everything together and sew it together pretty much. So first I want to go ahead and take those two pieces that were all one piece of a shirt apart because I find it much easier to work into halves than to try to work with one whole shirt when I'm sewing pieces and parts together like this. So I'm just cutting as close as I can to that seam there and just cutting this in half. Nothing special here. Anybody can do this. I'm trying to take my time because I do want to keep it as straight as I possibly can. Okay, now that that's completely off, we're going to line it up with the front part of the shirt. So make sure that whatever piece you're working with, you're putting it where it's going to go. So this is the front, so I'm matching this with the front part. So I'm just going to put it right sides together, and we're going to pin one end. Then I always do it this way, guys. I don't know why. I just find it easier to line things up. So I'll pin one end, then I'll go straight to the other end. I will pin that end where it needs to go, and then I will work in through the middle. That's just how I always pin my projects together. I find that to be the best way to make sure everything is lined up. Okay, so we're coming up on the tail end here of pinning this top part together, and I just want to show you guys, I always flip things right side out to see how it's going to look before I sew it together. That way, if I've done anything wrong, now's the time to fix it. Okay, so I sewed everything together, and I went ahead and did a top stitch down, and it's a little wavy, but you know what, we're going to roll with it. I am just a little rusty with my sewing here because I have not done this in a very long time, and it is definitely showing on this project. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and pin the armholes in place, and then I'm going to take those to my sewing machine and sew them together. Okie dokie, now the armholes are sewed down, and as you can see, my sewing machine wouldn't quite go far enough, so I have a little bit of a pucker there. So I'm going to go ahead and have to hand stitch all those four corners on the front, like the two in the front and the two in the back. No big deal, I'll take care of that later. We're just going to move on to the next part, and what I need to do here is cut the sleeves. I tried this on and the sleeves were way too long, so I marked them with a pin where they need to be cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, I think I cut a little bit above where the pin is, and then I'm like, no, yeah, that's right, okay, great. That's apparently what I decided to do. I thought I went a little bit beyond the pin, but I guess I decided not to. So now I'm just going to match it up with the other side, and originally I was folding it in half and then was like, hello, you're making it harder than it needs to be. Just use the little piece of a half that you have there. That would be a lot easier. So I just line that up as best I can and then cut the other sleeve so that it matches the one that I just did. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and add the bottom part on. So these buttons are roughly 3.5 inches apart. So I need this bottom half to hit at that mark so that it looks somewhat right, like it was supposed to be this way. And I'm matching it up here, and I end up going a little bit beyond that point because I'm trying to allow for seam allowance. So I put my pin a little bit beyond the 3.5 inch mark, and to be honest with you guys, I wish I put it a little bit lower because this ends up being a little bit shorter than I want it to be. So originally I was going to cut right where the pin is, and then I decided to go a little beyond the pin because I thought that it just might not be long enough, and I was lining it up perfectly, and then I'm like, no, Amber, you're going to want to go a little bit past where the pin is. It's easier to have to take stuff off than it is to try to add it back on. Just keep that in mind. So always allow yourself a little bit of room for error, because when you're doing these DIYs with reconstructing things like I am, or like anybody does, you need to leave some room for error, because believe me, I make a ton of mistakes. Okay, so I have this completely cut off. I'm going to take that pin out, and now we're going to match the bottom to that lower half there. Okay, so as you can see, it's a little bit too big, and I knew it was going to be too big, but now I just have to decide where I need to cut it to make it so that it's going to fit properly. And I see that the seams line up pretty good, so I guess I'm going to cut it a little bit beyond the seam to allow for seam allowance. How many times can I say seam in one sentence? Okay, so now that I know where I need to cut it, I'm lining up the front and back seam here so that those are where they need to be. See, there's the back, there's the front. I'm just going to stick a pin there so that I'm not cutting on either of those seams and they're lined up perfectly. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, just line up those two seams, the front and the back seam, and put a pin in it so that I'm not cutting where I'm not supposed to be. Okay, now that I have that done, I grab my scissors and then I just cut a little bit past that point, and I hope that it's correct. And you know what? I messed this up too. That should surprise no one. I am always having to fix my mess ups with any DIY that I do, pretty much. And I'm really rusty at this, so I haven't done this for a while, and I made several mistakes throughout this entire process. Okay, so I lined it up to make sure that it looks like it's going to work, and it does. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to take any more off. We're just going to roll with it like this. I end up sewing it together, but this was really thick, so I decided it was going to be hand stitched. But before I do any of that, I'm going to go ahead and take the front piece and line it up with the front part of the shirt, put it right sides together. I'm going to pin that on and sew the front panel on, and then I sew the back panel on. It's a lot easier to do things this way. Okay, so that's all sewn in place, the front and back panel, and I went ahead and pinned the sides together. And as I just said a few minutes ago, I definitely decided that I need to hand stitch this because it is way too thick to try to put through my sewing machine. So we're going to go ahead and just hand stitch these sides down. So here I'm just going to show you. Here's my needle and thread, just like the old-fashioned way how we used to do it. I'm just going to do over, under, just like you would back in the day when there were no sewing machines. I used to hand sew a lot, guys. I used to hand sew everything before I got my sewing machine and got brave enough to teach myself how to use it. So this is a piece of cake for me. It didn't take me that long. Okay, so now there it is, all stitched together. It looks kind of crazy, but honestly, when it's on, it looks fine. So we're just going to roll with it like this. Okay, so now we're moving on to the next part. And what I want to do is add a casing so that I can take the inside of the garment, like pinch it together so that it's not so boxy in case I wanted to wear it this way. So all I'm doing is taking pieces and parts of what was left of that sweatshirt. I'm going to fold everything in half, and then I'm going to stitch it inside the garment so that it doesn't have to be super pretty on the outside. No one's going to see this. So I'm just taking that half, I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to hand stitch it down. I find it to be easier to hand stitch something like this because, again, this is really thick. This sweatshirt material, whatever they used, is super thick. And anytime you have something that's really thick like this, it's definitely better to hand stitch than to try to feed this through your sewing machine, in my opinion. Okay, so here I go. I'm hand stitching this together just like I showed you in the last clip, just over, under, nothing special here. And I'm just creating that casing so that I could put a shoestring through this so that I can tighten this up should I want to wear it this way. I'm going to show you how it looks both ways, with it just boxy style and then with it kind of cinched in at the waist, just to give me some more options for wearing this garment. So here's me showing you the shoestring. That's my plan, to feed it through there so that I can tighten it up from the inside of the garment. Okay, so here it is completed. It doesn't have to be pretty. I wasn't worried about how it looked. This is all on the inside of the garment. Just remember that, guys. So now I'm going to go ahead and feed my shoestring through this casing. Now, most people will attach a safety pin to the end of things when they're feeding it through a casing. Anytime I'm feeding a shoestring through, I just go ahead and leave it as it is. I don't think that it needs the safety pin because you're able to grab that hard part of the shoestring and just continue to feed it through. So I don't mess with the safety pin when I'm doing shoestrings, which I do quite often in a lot of my DIYs. Okay, so it's fed completely through. I put little knots in the end to help it from going through too far, I guess you can say. So I'm just going to pull it taut so you guys can kind of see what it's going to look like on the other side. I'm going to turn it right side out, and this is kind of the idea here. Well, I'm going to pull a little bit tighter because I feel like it got loosened up after the fact. So here, I tie it a little bit so you can kind of see what's happening here. There you go. That's roughly how it's going to look when it's on my body. Okay, so now I have to mess with the sleeves. I'm like, all right, how am I going to finish this sleeve off? So what I decided to do is take the bottom part of the sleeve from the button-up shirt, and I'm just going to use that to add it to the bottom of this sleeve because that's already clean finished. It's ready to go. So I'm just going to snip that off there, and then I'll pin it to the very end of this sleeve so that this one is clean finished and I don't have to recreate a new hem because this one's already ready to go. That's the beauty of reconstructing garments, is that you can use pieces and parts that are already finished and you don't have to recreate something that's already been completed. So I'm just going to pin it on there, and boom, there you go. It's a clean finished edge on the bottom of your sleeve. So that part's ready to go. Now I gotta mess with this stupid collar, and what I decided to do is go ahead and just stitch it back down. I wanted to add the top collar part of that button up, but I just couldn't make it work, so this is what I decided to do. I'd like to add something at the top of this at some point because it needs something. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what I'm going to do with the hood. So what I decided to do is make a cute little purse with this. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch that edge down and then add a handle so that it becomes a little bag. I thought that was a cute idea. So I'm going to go ahead and take the back part of this to use to add the handle for the purse. Awesome. So when I cinch it together, boom, cute little bag, right? I don't know. It's just a nice little accessory to add to this. Why not? Okay, so here it is completed. I have my little handle on there, and it's all sewn together. And then I'm just going to cinch it up to show you how it would close. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but again, this is just a cute accessory to carry. I wasn't looking to reconstruct the whole thing. I think it serves its purpose, and it looks really cute. So let's see how all this turned out. Okay guys, so it was a little bit of a roller coaster ride to get to that final result, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I can't wait to show you guys the final thing. Okay guys, I have to pop in here because I'm not really happy with the way that it turned out. I just feel that it needs a little something at the top of it. I don't know, it looks more like a uniform to me than it does an outfit, so I'm going to have a revamp on the revamp coming up very soon. Does that make sense? Probably not, but nothing I do ever does, so just roll with it. Just know that I'm going to have an update on this garment coming up very soon because I'm not happy with it, but I still decided to share this video with you guys because I did all this work and I thought I should go ahead and share it. So let's move on. Now I just want to remind you guys that I am a self-taught DIYer, so everything that I'm showing you in these videos are ways that I've taught myself how to do these types of things. I don't know the right way, and if you know of a better way or an easier way, please share it with the rest of us so that we can try your way and see if we like that better. But just be kind in the comments because I'm not a seamstress or anything like that. I'm just trying to make some fun things with my clothes and show you guys how you could possibly do the same, and that's what these videos are all about. So please be kind. Don't butcher me because my sewing was terrible or this was off and that was, you know, I know that it's not perfect, but I do love how it turned out, and I'm really excited to show that to you. And I was able to make an accessory. How about that? So I made a little accessory with the hoodie part, so it turned out really cute too. So I have a full outfit with an accessory, so I can't wait for you to see it. So I'm going to quit talking, but if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any more of the super fun videos I have coming up. Lots more DIYs with all of those rescue box items that I have from Poshmark, and I have a couple of other ones that I promised you guys that I got in some mystery boxes I was going to make something out of, and we're going to do that too very soon. So make sure you've hit the subscribe button and you've clicked the notification bell so you don't miss any of those awesome videos coming up very soon. So without further ado, one more reminder, I'm not a model, so you're going to see the most terrible modeling you've ever seen in your life. Nonetheless, let's jump into how these things turned out. What's up, gorgeous people? It's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, oh my gosh, I forget what we're doing. Hold on. So in today's video, we're getting back to DIYing. I'm so excited. It was great to be back behind the sewing machine and making some stuff. I'm really excited that the door just banged and ruined this part of the video, so I had to do it again. Awesome. That's too loud. At any rate, we are going to revamp that. What is it? Oh, I have to remember what it is.